Man like Mark Sullivan, the warrior self. Stay tuned for the thrilling episode. Woo!
A positive mental attitude can clear away all obstacles which stand between you and your major purpose in life.
This is the Snowboard Project featuring Mark Sullivan and the Bead. The Snowboard Project. The Snowboard Project. The Snowboard Project.
Welcome back to the Snowboard Project. I'm Mark Sullivan.
And I'm the Beav. Last episode of Flight Week, huh?
I know. I'm getting a little emotional over here, Beav.
I see it in your eyes.
Yeah,
I see it.
I'm getting a little steamy.
You look quite verklempt right now.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if that's a compliment or an insult.
That is the correct usage of verklempt, right?
I have no idea.
No idea. No one really
That was just
knows.
something I said on Saturday Night Live, right? That I just remember. Anyhow.
Flight Week, episode 4.
Yep. This is the last one. We designed the graphic for the Flight 167 rocket tribute board.
All right. And you did that with the Dig My Quiver guys. Tell me, who is Dig My Quiver? Because there are people that are out there that don't know.
Okay, so Dig My Quiver is a community on Facebook. It's a group on Facebook. There's about, 8,500 approximately people in this group, and they collect snowboards.
Right.
And so they're some of the most passionate snowboarders. It's like if you're a snowboarder and then you buy like 30, 40 boards, you're pretty passionate about it, right?
Right.
And so this is like a community of people who are basically snowboard collectors. And so the founder of that community is also a graphic designer. He won our design contest for Tailgate Alaska twice. And so I called him up originally just with the idea like, hey, Chuck, we're friends. Can you design this Flite tribute board? And he was like, yeah. And then I was like, wait a minute. Maybe we could do this as like a live feed, like a live stream with the Dig My Quiver community, and then get all of their feedback involved with this. And so that's exactly what we did. We recorded a show. It's only Chuck and I talking, but we have like a comment section where basically 180 comments were posted based on our conversation as we were having it. So you'll hear the conversation. We kind of dip into the comments a little bit, but really it's like we try to keep it flowing.
Sure.
Right? But this is how we came up with the graphic for the tribute board, the 167 rocket Flite, and yeah, it's pretty exciting. I think it turned out great, by the way.
How was the collaboration with the community of Dig My Quiver? Was it pretty cool? Were you able to actually take some great ideas off of that message board and institute it?
Absolutely. That's the coolest part is like literally, we kind of had some ideas like here's a Flite rocket. This is what everything looked like in the past. And then we just went into it with this idea like let's update that so it's current. Let's make it current for today's standards, right? And then, it was very organic. We just went back and forth and then took this feedback, 183 comments or something, and then integrated that, and the design evolved. And honestly, I couldn't have envisioned, the way it turned out ahead of this thing. But man, it turned out great.
That's awesome. And then you printed. How many are you making, and why did you choose that number? I guess.
Okay, so so there's 45 snowboards out of this issue, and there's not a lot of. You wouldn't think that like there would be a demand for 45 167s. Let me tell you, there is. We sold out in less than 3 days. Wow. But the idea is basically like so. Flite Snowboards was founded 45 years ago, right? They're maybe the original actual snowboard brand from America. Like there was Snurfer, but they started in 1974. So the first serial number is 1974, and then we just roll up to 2019. So there's a board for every year since Flite was founded.
Question for you. Did you save one for Stevie Dara if we track him down?
I'll give him one of mine. I have two.
Yeah.
I'll give him one of mine for sure. And if we have any money left over, I'll definitely cut him a check too if there's anything left over at the end, because I think that, this is a tribute for his contribution of the sport, and it's like almost forgotten. But you know what? I'm going to make sure, hopefully, that people remember Stevie Dara and Flite Snowboards.
And that would be awesome to track him down. Anyway, should we roll into this?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Episode 22, Flight Week. welcome to the Snowboard Project. This is a special edition. We are designing a Flite snowboard. And so why Flite snowboards? Well, I'm about to tell you why Flite. So Flite was a brand that was started in 1974 by the Dara brothers. And Stevie Dara, I would say, is one of the long lost, one of the great innovators of the sport of snowboarding technology. So they started in 1974. You can see some photos of the old boards there I just posted in a separate thread. And they started out with like kind of snurfer type boards, but they had some rails to them, kind of like the modern POW surfers. But then they the technology evolved quickly with Flite, and so they basically created the first metal edge snowboard in 1976, the first PTEX based snowboard in 1976. They also created the very first vertically laminated wood core snowboard, and then they introduced the high back binding to snowboarding, which is really the technology that allowed us to ride to ski areas. So yeah, just wanted to tell you a little bit about the history. But what we're doing today is designing a new Flite board, and so this will be manufactured at a factory in China, the same factory that makes United Shapes, that makes D-Day. They make a bunch of different brands, some really high quality boards though that are made in China, and just like Burton Boards and every other company basically, aside from Never Summer, Nidaker, Jones. I mean, there's a handful of boards, Capita. They're not made in China, but I mean, there's a majority, I would say, of boards made today are made in China, and that doesn't mean low quality. That just means that they're made in a different place. So,
and the company is owned by a couple of American guys. Is that correct?
That's right. They had a brand called Yaqui back in the early 90s, and they started manufacturing their own boards. And that didn't totally work out for them, but it actually did, because that led to them starting a factory in China called GP87. So that's where these boards will be made. So anyhow, so I put a photo up of those original Flite boards, and so now I guess we'll start out, and I'll take feedback. I'll show you guys the shape of the board I have been working on, and then we'll get to the graphics here in a minute. But let's talk shape first. So I am posting this. Check out the comment thread on the on that thing. I'm trying to multitask here in multiple windows, but there is the. I think that should be there is the shape that I've been working on with Eric Luthart, the board designer. And so I can kind of run you guys through this. It's got a tip and tail shape kind of similar to like a Flite Predator or Flite Wave Hog. Those were kind of some of the last Stevie Dara boards that he made. And so I'm kind of thinking that the nose and tail shape will be kind of related to that. As far as the actual shape, it's going to be a tapered board. So it'll have about an inch more nose, a little more than an inch more nose than tail width. And that'll allow it to, it's basically kind of like a Burton fish, but it's actually kind of like a super fish or a whale or something like that, because really it's a killer whale or a predator, great white shark or something. I don't know.
Mark, where are people looking right now to be able to see this? Did you put another post?
Yeah, I put a comment in DMQ. I put a thread up, a separate thread, and it's got the 1970s and early 80s Flites in there. That was the first photos I put up. And then I just put a comment up with the shape of the board that we're talking about here. And so, and basically anyone who wants to comment, yes, 30 plus taper, about 30 taper, I would say. So yeah, put your comments up here though, and we're going to take a look at your comments as you guys are giving us this feed. We're going to look at your comments, and if you guys have any comments on the shape, it's got about an inch of setback. It's got about an inch of taper, and the length of the board is about 167. We're talking, it's going to have a little bit, as you can tell, an extended nose. So it will ride like a little bit shorter board, but really this is a board for powder, for high speed riding and powder. And also, by the way, camber, right? So that's kind of the overall shape. What do you think, Chuck? What do you think of the shape?
initial thought when I first saw it was that it wasn't shaped like any Flite boards that I remembered. And then my friend Steve Langelier posted, or he sent me pictures of the Flite Predator last night.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that.
I did.
And I was instantly thought of how that was very similar to your new shape. I've got a picture of it right here. I don't know
cool.
if it's
Yeah.
big enough for everyone to see, but it's got that, the little bump in the tail there, which you were telling me about earlier. Why don't you tell people about that third bump?
Okay, the third bump in the tail. So this is kind of funny. I was like, I don't know, 15 years old. I rode for Flite. That was my first sponsor. And so I would go hang out with Stevie Dara in Newport, Rhode Island, where all these boards were built. And I would just go spend my day there just sucking it in, right? Watching this guy just basically build the molds. And there was no like CAD. It was all done by hand, like with a jigsaw and sandpaper. And you got to get the shape exactly symmetrical, right? It's like, it was pretty crazy, but he could do it. So anyhow, he's like asking me about my feedback. And so I was like, oh, maybe if you put like first of all, put another bump in the middle of the tail, and so number one, it won't be just like a Sims half pipe, and number two, that'll allow me to really track straight on my wheelies, and so that's why that third bump is actually there on those Flite boards. So that may be my first actual contribution to the sport of snowboarding. Yeah. Not that it really meant anything. I was a kid, but
Yeah. Well, everybody was trying new things at the time, trying new shapes and trying to be different and stand out. And so whether it worked or not, or whether it was just a gimmick, I think, is all part of the whole development of snowboarding in the beginning.
Yeah, totally. So I'm going to check out these comments. Have you checked out any comments on here? What's that?
They had some pretty innovative ideas in terms of developing bindings too. I mean, the early bindings, I think, I remember in the early days of Dig My Quiver, Tom Sims was actually one of the members, and this guy, Steve Langelier, who I think is watching live right now too. What's up, Steve? He posted some pictures of his Flite boards with those bindings, and Tom chimed in right away and was, really wanted to talk to Steve about seeing some close-up pictures of those bindings and seeing
I
getting some more details on that.
I rode those bindings. I don't know if we could even do a reissue of those. They were a single strap with a tongue that came across like a Craig Kelly tongue. I mean, that probably inspired the Craig Kelly tongue, right? And then there was like a Velcro pouch on the back of the there's a Velcro pouch on the back of the bindings. Yeah, there's a Craig Kelly tongue right there, but I would say the Flite bindings definitely predated the Craig Kelly tongue. I'm not sure if Craig had his own tongue. I'm not sure what came first. It doesn't matter. It's just Steve went to market with it. He thought it was a different, radical idea. And so, the brothers, Steve and Dave Dara, they were the Flite brand basically back in the day. And so, honestly, this is just like, this isn't to make money. This is just to pay tribute to Stevie Dara and keep his legacy alive in the sport of snowboarding. Because to me, it's like, that was a guy who gave so much of himself to the sport of snowboarding and got so little out of it. I mean, snowboarding wasn't lucrative kind of when he was out of the game. It was like it wasn't even lucrative yet. And so that's kind of the idea, is to make sure that the people who care about snowboarding remember Stevie and Dave Dara, right? So so I'm thinking, so you look at the shape, I was thinking A3 basically as far as the shape. Nose shape A, tail shape 3. Right? That would be the two that I think are the closest anyway to that original Flite board, right? So looks like last year's GNU, except last year's GNU actually looks like a Flite. That's the deal. It's like, that's an original shape by Flite. And so can you post some of these photos in here of some Flite boards in the in my comment thread? Because I'm going to just post a whole slew of Wave Hogs. This is the Wave Hog board. I'm going to try to post all these. This is, I'm just going to post all these Wave Hog photos so you can see kind of what the original tip and tail shape of those boards were. So I'm going to post the Wave Hogs up here in my comment thread. And I'm just going to attach these photos here so you can see kind of the different, these are just to show you the shape of the tip and the tail. And so you can kind of get a feeling of what those boards looked like. And so, yeah, leave your comments here. And Chuck and I will be reviewing these comments as well if we don't catch them while we're live. It's kind of hard to follow all this actually at once. We've never done this before. This is uncharted waters, right? The uncharted waters. That's our logo, is like the represents the rite of passage of the snowboarder.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
Would you say like growing things organically could be likened a lot to like growing things organically?
Yeah. Like, what do you got?
No, I'm
like
just saying, like, because we're trying to
Let's
grow
say,
this.
for instance, tomatoes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
So
like,
tomatoes need sunlight, and
like
they
if you
need
buy like
some water, and they
Right.
need some soil.
Right. No, I have friends who would like they would actually like buy these lights and they would grow tomatoes indoors organically.
Okay. So can we liken the lights and in our fake sunlight to Patreon subscribers?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you will be our metal halide lights.
You too can be our grow lights. So why don't you help us grow? If you're interested in helping us grow, go to patreon.com/the Snowboard Project, and help us grow to be a bigger independent voice in snowboarding. We want to bring you an organic experience that is grass fed and, you know,
Grass fed?
I have no idea.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, yeah, and by the way, also, subscribe, rate, review on iTunes, on Google Podcasts, on any of our podcasting platforms. That's also going to help us grow, help get the word out, and also tell your friends, right? If you enjoy the podcast, please tell your friends, let your snowboarding buddies know.
But also let your friends that like to grow tomatoes know too. Just saying.
Since we're talking about something so visual, it would help to have a third screen to show all these graphics. But I printed out a few pages. I actually have been researching like old Flite boards and trying to find good pictures of the old graphics, and I've recreated a few of them, like the
the rocket.
The rock, yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then just the logo itself. So
cool.
Definitely got some pieces and parts that I've been collecting, and hopefully we can incorporate some of those into the design.
Yeah, that would kind of be the idea, is to really like take something from the past and then make it modern, give it a little modern spin based on your feedback, Chuck, and the feedback of the whole Dig My Quiver community. You know, so let's take a look at some of these graphics that exist already for Flite. And I would say, you know, there's like the 70s ones, which are kind of like incorporated into those. You know, there's that like guy snurfing and it says snowboard Flite with lightning bolts. I have a close-up shot of that posted. That's like the really like as original as it gets. So I'm not sure if we incorporate that or if we incorporate the more like rocket flavored graphics, I guess you would say.
Sure, yeah.
So what do you think, Chuck? I mean, what's your feeling on that?
Well, the first thing that came to mind was that classic, I think Jared Newell posted a picture of it yesterday, the black Flite that had the blue stripes and like the geometric shapes on the side.
Right.
Here.
Yep. And I'll post a couple of photos of these 80s Flite rockets in the in the other thread.
Also, like the even earlier ones, like the Snurfer style Flites with like the real bold primary colors with just like a hint of black in there. So it was like basically one primary color and some black pinstriping and geometric shapes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like the first thing that came to mind, and I thought it would be cool to sort of follow that design style for this new one and maybe just do a modern take on that idea.
I like that idea. What about like what kind of top sheet? I mean, how do we put a modern twist on it? I know that like I was thinking maybe we do like a wood veneer top sheet and like have it stained and then put that graphics on top of it. Or I mean, what does the Dig My Quiver people think? Let's see. Let's check in with the feedback we're getting here in the comment thread.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, I like your wood grain idea. I think that's definitely something you're seeing more of. People like to see the inner components, if you will, of the snowboard. And so you can see a lot of like graphics that have sort of a window into what's going on underneath.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I think that could be pretty cool to have like either a window or a veneer. But let's see what the feedback. Wood be sick. Okay, Jeremy Allen. Great idea, Nick Campiglia. Wood would be good, from Nick again. And so yeah, just give us your feedbacks. Resin swirl surfboard style from Ed Cook. Okay, that's actually a pretty cool bit of feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. Because didn't Flite originally had like part of their logo said Surfco?
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it did say Surfco, definitely. Rocket on wood grain is what Steve says. And then Vance says maple. Vance Billings from Maine, from Rumford, Maine. Okay, Thunder's watching us now. We're basically doing our feedback. We could do a bird's eye maple top sheet. That would actually add to the cost, but it's certainly possible. You know, we could do some kind of crazy wood, a koa wood, a bird's eye maple, a elm, I don't know, something from the East Coast, something like a typical Newport, Rhode Island tree. I don't know what that would be, you know, but that could be pretty cool. But really the, you know, the idea is to take something from the past, though, and then put a modern spin on it, right?
Right.
So I think that...
Now, Mark, what's the deal with, I also want to talk about the base graphic a little bit, too.
Okay.
What are they capable of doing, like die-cut bases, or are we going to do, like, printed base, or...
you know, I mean, we
deal?
could do whatever we want. Sky's the limit. We could do a transparent base. We could do, and you could literally see to the core. We could do maybe a transparent with a die cut. We could just do something that's a direct tribute, but with a die cut. Obviously, they weren't doing die cuts back then. And so we could take the, you know, just update the traditional base graphic. And that could be a single Flite logo. I saw on the Wave Hog that I posted that there's like two Flites kind of back to back. So really, okay, Randy Schaffner says wood with transparent full graphic. Okay, cool. So yeah, we're getting some mixed with some Flite OG colors. Yep, I like the Flite OG color idea because it's like, it seems like on all those rocket boards, it was like a 3-tone blue color, like progression almost,
Blue.
You know?
Yeah, yeah. And the older ones just had like either a bright orange and black or a bright yellow and black.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of like just a bold primary color somewhere in it, Flite logo, and incorporate some of those wood grain ideas into it.
Yeah. And so also let me just tell people what the deal is with this board. So we're going to make this board at a factory, and we're going to make them available to just people who are part of the Dig My Quiver community and support the Snowboard Project. Those are the only people who will get this board or have this board available to them. The price will be pretty cost effective, actually, because we're getting these directly. We don't have overhead. This is not a for-profit venture. This is a for fun, for snowboarding venture. So yeah, if you're a member of the Dig My Quiver community and you support us on Patreon, the Snowboard Project, which is Patreon, patreon.com/the Snowboard Project, like $2 a month or whatever, or whatever you do want to donate to help keep, you know, an independent voice in snowboarding alive, you know, and so that's the idea. And so, yeah, okay, so what board? So we're making a Flite board. Maybe you can run people through what we're doing here one more time who are joining us late.
Yeah. So Jeremy's asking how many. What are you thinking, Mark, on the quantity of boards? These are going to be exclusively available for only DMQ members. Is that correct?
Yes, only for DMQ members. That's right, and supporters of the Snowboard Project. But you have to do both, actually. You have to do both, right? But I think that it's worth it. I think it's worth it anyway. So the idea is that, you know, it's got camber and taper. Yes, this will be a rocket ship, like a Flite rocket, right? And so this is designed based around kind of what I wanted to ride for Alaska. And I talked to the board designer. He's like, nothing like this really exists right now. So I was like, cool. Well, then I should do this as part of the Snowboard Project. Aaron, we have another thread that has the shape of the board. You can see the shape that we've been working on. and it's a tapered, cambered 167 elongated nose, kind of a throwback to the original Flite, or not an original, well, the original Flite Predator and Wave Hog shapes. So that's kind of the idea with the shape. But right now we're talking graphics, and so we're looking for your feedback on what we should do for graphics. And Chuck's going to be handling the graphical responsibilities because Chuck can design circles around me. So.
So along with your suggestions right now as we're talking, you can go ahead and message me if you come up with some ideas later, or even if like there's some designers out there who want to take a stab at doing some designs or some drawings, you can send them to me, and maybe we can make this more of a group effort.
Cool.
And I think that's part of the fun of this whole project, is that we're kind of including everybody. I'd like to see more projects like this taking place with direct collaborations with consumers.
Yeah.
The average snowboarder.
Yeah.
And gives us a little more excitement in the products that we're riding, if we had a hand in developing them.
Yeah, and so someone asked about the price. I think it's going to work out after we pay for the molds, and depending on how many we make, the more we make, the cheaper it'll be, because the mold is a fixed cost, and then the number of boards. So you take you divide the number of boards against the mold, and then the cost of the boards and getting them to you. And we could certainly do a pearl inlay. That's a neat idea. Yeah, so it'll probably be around probably around $400, I'm thinking, depending on if we go crazy with like a bird's eye maple top sheet or some exotic wood that'll raise the price, right? Depending on the materials. And if we, there's going to be a sintered base just because that's faster. And, but really the idea is though that we're going to make a board that will only be available to the Dig My Quiver community. And right. People who support the snowboard project as well. So yeah, abalone, someone said.
That's a really good price. So I want to see everybody have one of these boards in their quiver.
Yeah, this is going to be a neat project. This is something all new for me. I mean, the live feed with 2 people, that's new for me too. So why not, right? Why not? So yeah, we'll do.
The other thing I want to add about the graphic is I don't know if anyone saw earlier, I posted a new group photo at the top with the Flite logo, the Snowboard Project logo, and the DMQ logo, and those are also the Snowboard Project and the DMQ logo are going to be somewhere in this graphic as well. Maybe
cool.
Small somewhere on the board.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Okay, so what do you guys think about if we had like one shop in the country, you nominate your favorite shop and one shop gets like 2 of them? Do you think that's something we should do or should not do? I mean, just 2 of them, right? Just to be like, okay, you can have 2 of these boards, and hopefully the demand outstrips the supply. I was thinking that we have to make at least 8 of these boards to make it worthwhile. I think we're gonna actually end up making more than 8. So I know I want 2. So.
Who plans on getting one already? Let's see a thumbs up.
Okay, let's see some thumbs up if you guys want this board. So yeah, and so how you're going to get this board is basically you're already part of the DMQ community. You're watching this, and then you got to subscribe on Patreon to the Snowboard Project. And by the way, if you subscribe on Patreon, I'm also giving away a bunch of snowboard history. You can see next week's giveaway on Monday. I'm giving away that Switchblade right there. So, yeah, that's a cherry Switchblade. It's actually, you could mount that thing up and ride it tomorrow if there was any snow. So. Oh, nice. Yeah, that's actually a good one. I had to really think twice about giving that one away. But for the Dig My Quiver, in honor of Flite, I'm giving away a Sims. So, okay, so what about the graphics? What's the process that you would follow to do a snowboard graphic, Chuck? Like, how would you go about like conceptualizing, visualizing, then what does the actual execution look like of doing a snowboard graphic?
Well, typically I just start. Sometimes I start without an idea, and I just start taking some drawings that I've already done, or just start playing around, moving things around, and just seeing what looks good. And usually once I get started, that sparks more ideas. But with a project like this, my initial thought was to really just sort of research the old graphics, and not make it my artistic style, but something that really pays tribute to the original brand.
Right.
And I think a little bit of my creativity will probably show through in it, some of my style.
Yep.
But yeah, like right now, it's I just have pieces and parts and ideas, and I'm gonna collect everyone else's ideas and just start working on it. And I think it's just gonna take on a life of its own graphically.
Cool. And so how long does it take you to design like a graphic for a snowboard? Is it something you bust out in an hour, or does it take weeks? Or, I mean, how long does it take?
Usually like a couple hours, yeah, and then I'll go back and change things and stuff. But yeah, it's when I get inspired to do a design, I just don't think about anything else. I just want to get in and just start working on it until it's done. Get obsessed about it, sort of.
Right. Cool. This will be kind of neat just to see how this thing progresses, and I think that we can probably, I don't know, we'll probably have to do another one of these to go over the graphics once we actually have some stuff to look at, right? So
yeah, well, didn't you say that this was going to be part of like a week-long podcast series?
Yeah, and so basically the first one will either be me designing the kind of the shape and the profile, and you can give us feedback on that. I will definitely be researching all of these comments because they're coming so quick. I only see 2 at a time. Right on my feed, so we'll have to research these comments. I can probably refresh this page actually and maybe see more of them, but
and what's your sort of target date as to when you want to see all the details be finished and get the boards into production, and when do you hope to have them finished and available for people?
I will talk to Eric Luthar. I can give you an update on that. These guys are doing samples for the trade show. They're doing all sorts of stuff. There's also a holiday in China, I think in January or February. But certainly in this riding season, you will be able to ride these this season. It takes actually, most board brands, they'll design their boards like a year in advance. And then the production timeline is then they'll get their samples and prototypes. They'll show those at a trade show, have people riding them or whatever. And then they'll collect their orders, and then they'll be manufactured during the summertime for shipping in August. Well, right now, or August, September. Right now, we're kind of designing these boards in the shipping period. So maybe the sooner we get these done, the sooner we can go into production. And maybe we can beat the samples for this year, and then we get them earlier, like maybe December. I don't know. But I'll talk to Eric, the guy who's helping facilitate the manufacturing, to see exactly when we can get these. But honestly, it's like we kind of have a shape more or less established. We're talking about the graphics, and once we put it into his hands, then it's up to them, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But
it's kind of exciting to get a new board sort of mid-season anyway, I think.
Yeah. So that's kind of the idea, is that you'll be able to ride these boards anyway this year. So that's the cool part about it.
Hey, what's up, Roger?
Nothing much.
Roger Sullivan. Mark Sullivan, 30 years earlier. Right?
Yeah.
What's going on? You loving snowboarding?
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah? What's the best thing about snowboarding?
Just it's a good experience, and it's really good to do with friends and stuff.
Right. I think that's why we all got into snowboarding, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. So what is the feeling you get when you're getting up in the morning and you're going to go snowboarding?
I get really excited. Sometimes I'm not too excited, though, because sometimes a little tired, but
yeah,
it's always really fun in the end.
Does Mark pull you out of bed and go like, Roger, it's time to go snowboarding?
Yeah.
He does, huh? Because he's all stoked on snowboarding.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, how much does Mark love snowboarding?
He loves it like a lot.
Like a lot?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What's it like being his son? Is it hard? Do you have to compete with the snowboard sometimes?
Yeah, it can be kind of hard to keep up because he is pretty dang fast, but...
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you guys race sometimes?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So, have you donated to our Patreon?
No.
Why the heck not, Raj? Don't you have a job?
I guess I do have a job.
Yeah, what's your job?
I'm the mail guy for the snowboard project.
Wait, you're our mail guy?
Yeah.
Oh, well, at least you didn't get intern position because you'd be making me coffee, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that job sucks. Anyway, so you haven't chipped down a couple bucks?
Not yet, but I'm gonna.
Where do you go?
some.
Where do we go to do that?
We go to patreon.com/the snowboard project.
Yeah. Thank you, Roger. If you didn't get that, patreon.com/the snowboard project. This is the voice of Mark Sullivan 30 years ago. Yeah, that's what he'd sound like.
So, yeah. So, any other feedback on the graphic? We've heard everything from abalone inlays to, bird's eye maple. Vance Billings had some good ideas there. People like the wood top sheet. So, I think we may have a consensus on any kind of wood. What kind of wood would be typical for Newport, Rhode Island? What would be like a grand tree that would be growing in Newport?
Rich mahogany.
Rich, right? Yeah. So maybe a rich mahogany top sheet. That sounds fitting.
That might be a little heavy. I don't know. I think the maple is a good idea. It's a nice eastern sort of tree that you'd think about with the Northeast.
Yep. So yeah, and the cranberries.
And that's probably what they made a lot of their original Snurfer style boards out of maple, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think they did, like hard rock maple, is what they would call it. Yeah. Chestnut, there's a good idea. Chestnut tree. Right? I don't know where you would get a chestnut veneer, but I bet we could find one. Maple is the state tree of Rhode Island, says Jim O'Leary. Right?
What about, Mark, would it be possible to have a couple of extra inserts put in on the sides of the tail so that people could attach old style fins?
Ooh.
If they wanted to?
Oh, I think that actually that could be a possibility, I think. I think it is.
Oh.
But then we got to figure out how to make fins because you can't, that's not an off the shelf item.
Right.
Maybe we could get Terry Parker, who's a friend of mine, to manufacture them. He's a metal worker in Washington State. Maybe he could make us some fins, right? That would be.
Well, I think if you build the inserts there, that will leave it up to people to sort of come up with their own ideas for what they want to attach there. Just using some typical snowboard binding hardware to screw down what they want.
Yeah.
Or maybe even like. A couple of holes in the nose so people can ride these Snurfer style without bindings.
This board might be a little big for that, but that could be pretty cool, like a hole drilled in the nose for a rope.
Yeah, I'm just throwing out ideas, and hopefully, people, start getting inspired by just some of those crazy ideas.
Yep.
And having a few of their own.
Okay, here's another idea I had, and I'm not sure what you guys think of this, so I'd like your feedback, which is instead of going with that kind of like half 4-pack, I'm not sure what it's called. It's like every 20 millimeters, there's another like insert pack or whatever. Just go with the standard 40 millimeter so you get a huge range of stance options. What do you guys think of that? Should we go with like that? Like you can see on the drawing on the other thread that it's like it's got like the every 20 millimeters there's another set of inserts, so they're really close. Like every half 4-pack there's another set of inserts. I was thinking like just go with the standard 4-pack and then have them like spread out so you can stand way over the tail, or you can be right in the center or wherever you want to be on the board.
Yeah,
just an idea.
I like that idea. Yeah.
Cool. See, Ed
Cook, what do you think of that idea? Ed Cook is a snowboard maker. He is part owner of Black Sheep Snowboards down in New Jersey.
Okay.
And Ed is a board maker. He's like one of the best at hand bending and setting edges. Ed, what do you think about the insert idea? It says yes on the 4x4.
What did the original shape ride like? Okay, so I rode that board, but really it's like it rode good, but that was back in a different era. This board is going to be definitely like performance oriented, and really the tie to the original shape will be in the nose and tail shape, right? It's going to have like a modern performance camber, taper, high speed, you know, do a long channel. Okay, so maybe for another project, we can get into a 3D board shape and we can get into that, but that's for a different project because that adds about $3,000 to the molding setup, right? And so I would like to make a 3D based board with rails and that kind of thing, but yeah, that's a different molding cost compared to a traditional board. This is our first project. Maybe this will be one of more to come, right? I'd say it'll lean to the stiffer side, you know, probably. At least that's what I'm thinking, is that it'll be like, you know, like a high speed. It'll be designed to handle high speeds, you know. And then you can also like throw it sideways based on the taper. You could throw it sideways and do like a heavy duty slash, right? Okay.
Those are good.
So, okay, so we got a vote for stiffer. We got a more natural smooth flex. We got a rad. So, yeah, we're taking your feedback, guys. We're looking for your feedback. We're making this board, and we want to, you know, we're going to just release this to the Dig My Quiver community. Triaxle glass, yes. Yep, triax. This will be a performance snowboard. You know, sintered base. I go over that. I do a whole episode with Eric Luthart, who's the board designer. So that'll be pretty cool, you know, to listen to. And then, you know, this, I don't want a stiff board. Okay, so you want a medium flexing board. Okay. And a little forgiving. Okay, yeah. I mean, I think it'll probably end up, and I think, you know, maybe a little bit of carbon fiber. Length it'll be a little bit longer board. It'll be a 167. That's based on having extended nose and also wanting to ride it in Alaska, but also have it ride everywhere, right? The camber, will the camber be set back? I would say a good amount of camber. This will be a straight camber board. I like camber boards. Unless you guys really hate camber. I didn't think you did. Let's see the most current feedback. Yeah, there's the shape right there. Yeah, and we're taking, what is the profile thickness? I am not sure what the thickness of the board is. I leave that up to the actual engineers. I'm just a snowboarder, you know, so. That's too big. No.
Jeremy said
no.
167 centimeters. That's too big for me. Haha.
No, it's not. No, it's not. So back in the day, by the way, every board, the average snowboard was a 165. Right? That was the average board. And so then, you know, with jibbing and everything else and like the nose shapes being really cut down and low profile, that's how the board shape or board lengths got reduced to like where a full size man will ride a 157. Right. But really, it's like this board will have a little bit of an extended nose and really this will, you know, be something that I think everyone can ride. My daughter, who was like 14 last year, she would jump on my 168 board and rip it. And like literally we would trade boards. She had fun on the 168. I didn't have so much fun on the 139, but that's what we would do. You know, she wanted to ride my 168. So, almost big enough for Daniel Clark. Yes, Daniel, you are a Sasquatch of a man and a great guy too, I might add. So yeah, that'll be good. Artist or photographer for top sheet design, Gooch or Roberts. Okay, we'll take that feedback. I'll have to read that comment in depth. I know we got 85 comments right now, Chuck. We're gonna have to sort through these.
Yeah, and again, send me some ideas. Just message me your ideas if you think of something later, or if you have some actual designs that you want to submit.
Cool.
For me to work into it.
Yep. And so the way this works, let's go over this one more time. Basically, you're a member already of the Dig My Quiver community. You subscribe to the Snowboard Project, and then we will make these available to you basically at our cost, right? We got to pay for molds. We got to, we got to basically offset the cost. And we're not looking to make a ton of these, just basically for the Dig My Quiver community, just enough to satisfy the demand of the Dig My Quiver community who support the Snowboard Project.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. So, any last feedback? Anything else we want to? Any last feedback for this board graphic? So, where are we at right now, as far as you can tell? Let's review this. Let's do a review.
I don't know. I had a hard time keeping up with the comments.
Yeah.
But I'm ready to get started. I've got a few ideas, and what do you think? Should I share my progress on DMQ and just keep the conversation going?
Yeah, I think we could do that, and then people will have to tune in to our Flite Week on the snowboard project, and they can listen to our different episodes that really cover the designing and making of a snowboard from scratch. So yeah, that's the idea here. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Everyone from Dig My Quiver, thanks for making this rad, because this is a pretty cool project. I'm not sure how much. Oh, you got some crotch rockets out there in New Hampshire. Cool.
I'm near Hampton Beach.
Oh yeah, you are. Biker boys, right on.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, this is our graphic episode. We're designing the graphic for the Flite reissue, and once again, this is basically to pay tribute to Stevie Dara. I've been trying to track Stevie Dara down actually for a couple of years, trying to do something with like a Flite just to keep that name alive. So if Stevie contacts me, the price of the board will go up based on the fact I want to give Stevie Dara some money just for his contribution to the sport. It'll be like his pro model essentially, even though his name, I mean the Flite name, right, that'll be on it. So that's the idea. So yeah, if anyone knows Stevie Dara, if Stevie Dara wants to get in contact with me, we'll definitely cut you in through this thing, because it's like you're the guy who brought in the metal edges, the PTEX bases, the vertically laminated wood core, and the high back binding. So, I mean, and you started in 1974, right? That predates Burton by 4 years. That predates Sims probably as a manufacturer by a few years. And so, yeah, thank you guys for tuning in.
As old as me.
What's that?
It's as old as me.
Cool. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for taking part in this special edition of the Snowboard Project. Yeah, we'll see you next time.
On behalf of Mark Sullivan and the Beeve, thanks for listening to the Snowboard Project. Remember, ride fast, take chances, dream big, and take action. And for God's sake, don't forget to support advertising-free snowboarding media at patreon.com. The Snowboard Project. The Snowboard Project. The Snowboard Project.